Sometimes it's not until something is out of place or missing that we suddenly realize how meaningful that it has become to us. Earlier this year, I showed up at a church to participate in a funeral, and I arrived early enough to make sure that everything was in place and all of us knew our roles. And as I was kind of checking everything off my list, I realized that the Paschal candle was missing. And so I asked about it, and thus began a church-wide search for the elusive Paschal candle. And I was a bit surprised by my reaction that the missing candle provoked. I was unaware that the Paschal candle had become such a significant symbol for me. I'm not sure when or where or how that happened. I do know that early on in my ordained ministry, I picked up something of a custom of beginning every service of the burial of the dead with a greeting that goes something like this. We gather under the fire of this candle. It's called the Paschal candle. This candle is lit at 3 times in the Episcopal Church. First, it is lit on Easter to signify the victory of God's life over death in the risen Jesus, and that the light of God's love is stronger than the darkness of death. And secondly, it is lit at every baptism to signify that the light of our life is united with the light of Christ. And finally, it is lit at all funerals to signify that though we can no longer see the one we love, we trust that the light of their life burns forever within the eternal embrace of God's love. Now, with what I'm about to say, you might think that all of a sudden I'm confusing my holy days. I'm not. I've just been thinking a lot about light and the Paschal candle this year because of verses from the Gospel of John that we hear every year at Christmas. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things came into being through Him, and without Him not one thing came into being. What has come into being in Him was life, and the life was the light of all people. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not overcome it. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not overcome it. Because of that announcement, I'm wondering aloud with you if maybe we should also be lighting the Paschal candle at Christmas. Now, to be clear, this is not a pastoral directive to do so. It is simply a pastoral reflection. After all, this is the candle that signifies what John declares. The Paschal candle represents the fire, the light that shines in the darkness. This candle represents the hope of Israel. The people walking in darkness have seen a great light. On those living in the land of deep darkness, a light has dawned. We've spent much of 2020 in the darkness of death, despair, defeat, depression, disillusionment. It's palpable. Don't we all yearn for light? The most common question about worship that I've been asked in the last month is about the singing of Silent Night by candlelight while observing our protocols. And I'm confident that this yearning is in part born from a desire for normalcy, something that can just kind of reconnect us. And I also believe, however, that there's something mystical and sacred about lighting candles in the darkness. So let's light a candle or 2 or 12 this Christmas season of 2020. And when you do, let's remember that this is the very same light of eternal, absolute love that shines in the face of a baby and one day will burn in the darkness of the tomb. It cannot and will not be extinguished. And let us recommit to carrying this light into the world and holding it especially for those who are still walking in the darkness. In the words of a poem by Howard Thurman, I will light the candles of Christmas, candles of joy despite all the sadness, candles of hope where despair keeps watch, candles of courage for fears ever present, Candles of peace for tempest-tossed days. Candles of grace to ease heavy burdens. Candles of love to inspire all my living. Candles that will burn all year long. Merry Christmas. As we once again welcome the light of Christ into the world in the birth of Jesus, may the eternal, absolute light of God's love shine in your soul, drive away the darkness, warm your heart, and enkindle in you a renewed desire to shine in the darkness. Yeah, let us light candles this Christmas, and let us dare to allow that very light to be set afire in us in 2021. Merry Christmas.